Hi guys, it's Kate here at A Bead Just So. Today I'm going to do a little video and teach you how to crimp. Other than elastic bracelets, this is probably the second most asked question here at the shop is how do I crimp? How do I finish something? So it's really not a difficult process. I think people are scared that they're not going to get it done right and that the project is going to fall apart. But again, it just takes practice. So I'm going to show you a couple different projects, then I'm going to go over tools that we're going to use, and then we'll get started. So here are two examples. This happens to be a two-stranded necklace, and I have used at the closure a lobster claw and an extender chain. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You can see that I have crimp covers over my crimps, so I'll show you how to do all of that. And then this necklace is done with a toggle. So it has, let's see, there we go. So it's done with a toggle, so a bar and a ring. So I'll show you how to do one of those as well. So there's that. So wire, what wire are we going to use? We are going to use Soft Flex brand wire. It is nylon coated stainless steel, and I carry it in 3 different weights. What I've used today on both of my projects and on both of the necklaces I just showed you is the fine. So it's got a 10-pound test and it's a 0.014 inch diameter. So this one is 21 strands of stainless steel all braided together and then coated with nylon. It's really, really strong. I use this for 99% of the projects that I'm doing. It's got a really lovely drape to it. It's very flexible, and it holds the beads nicely. So you can see on this one, so this is strung with chips, and sometimes chips just don't lay right, and if you crimp them too tightly, which we're going to talk about when we get there, they will make your wire buckle and go crazy, but this one doesn't. And part of it has to do with the wire that we're using. The Soft Flex beading wire is really nice for the draping, so you get what you pay for with wire. Again, if you're just starting out and you have tiger tail or something at home, go for it, but as you grow your skill set and your bead inventory, you might want to upgrade to some Soft Flex. It's quite lovely. So there's the fine. Now, like I said, it works for just about everything. If you're using beads that have really tiny holes, like I have some beautiful seed pearls that just will not fit on there, I carry Soft Flex brand Soft Touch, which I haven't grabbed and brought over, but it's a little bit thinner. It's still very strong, but it's thinner, and it fits perfectly through those. You can crimp it just like we're going to do today. Very easy. So then the other one is a medium. This is the thicker. So the medium Soft Flex is a 26-pound test. It is a 0.019 inch diameter, and it is 49 strands of stainless steel braided. If you are using like all pyrite or all super duper heavy stone, I recommend using this. But for the most part, the fine will do you. So I do a lot of jewelry repair, and most of it I do just on the fine Soft Flex. However, if I have a customer who's brought me something that they tell me they wear constantly, like they never take it off, they shower in it and all that stuff, which I do not recommend. Take your jewelry off. Don't shower in it. Don't swim in it. It's not meant for that. But if they insist that they're going to do that, I will use the medium Soft Flex if I know if it will fit through the beads. It's just going to give you a little bit more wear and tear on it. But doing that with your jewelry is bound to make it break. Anyway, okay, so we've gone over the wire. Now let's show you the tools we're going to use. So we're going to use a pair of flat nose pliers, meaning they're flat on the inside, also referred to as chain nose pliers. So we're going to use these to do our crimps. I sell a couple different versions of these. These are the Beadsmith German ones that I carry, and they're my favorite. But I also have just an inexpensive $7 pair that are great for beginners. The spring on these is a little bit different, and this is what I'm used to using, so that's what I use. We are going to need a pair of wire cutters to cut off the extra wire. We're going to use the flush side of the cutter. We are also going to use a mighty crimper. So we're not going to use this to crimp. We are just going to use this to put your crimp covers on, make it look a little more finished. I also use a bead mat, which you'll see when we get down here, instead of a bead board. I lay out, if I can do this without spilling all of my beads, I use a bead board to lay out my design in. And it works really well for measuring. It's got lengths up the sides, and it's great for that. But I find I do so much bead weaving that I've gotten used to using a bead mat. So when I get to this stage, I switch over to a bead mat. Okay, let us get started. So we're going to start with our bracelet, which is going to be I'm going to use a toggle on this. So on this, I have used some beautiful check glass beads. Check glass beads are like my favorite. They're my weakness. I can't not buy them when I see them. So we have these beautiful check glass beads, and I'm going to use a little toggle. Whoops. Let's see. You know what? We're going to switch our view here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's do maybe this. Okay, so here's my bead mat right here. Here is our bracelet with our bead stopper on it. Now a bead stopper just holds the beads from falling off for us. So the toggle that I'm going to use is a little this little camera thing is all new to me. It's a TierraCast brand toggle, and it's beautiful. They have such amazing designs, and they're intricate and gorgeous. And oh, by the way, if your silver TierraCast stuff tarnishes a little bit, you can dunk it in sterling silver cleaner and it cleans up beautifully. So there's a little tip for you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to use these little teeny tiny crimps to crimp our stuff. So on a toggle, what we're going to do is I want to free one end of this. So we're going to put our crimps on. Now, if you look at your crimps closely, one side, one hole is small, and the other is a little bit larger. So if you go through the small side, when you go back through the crimp, you'll be going back through the larger side. So here's what we're going to do. I always start with the bar end of my toggle. All right, so we go through the bar, and then I'm going to flip this, and I'm going to go back through the crimp. Okay, I need to adjust the camera because I can't see what I'm showing you. Let's see, a little bit more like that. Okay, so there we go. We have a loop. So the crimp is on, so you put the crimp on. We go through the bar end of the toggle, and now we've taken the wire back through the crimp, so it has a loop. Now I'm going to switch this so I can hold my tool in my right hand. So it's kind of, there's a couple little tips and tricks I'm going to give you. Start with a nice big loop like this, right? And then take your flat nose plier, and we're going to very gently grab that crimp. And you want to just, if you gently grab it, you can slide it. When I'm showing people this in person, they don't really understand that you can do this, because my hands make a better door than a window. But you can actually take this and slide it and then squeeze it where you want it. I also want to point out that my wires are not crisscrossed through that crimp. They're sitting side by side in there. If you crimp them and they're crisscrossed on top of each other like this, when you crimp it, the hold will probably be okay, but it won't be as good as if they're flat next to each other. Okay, so we are going to gently grab that crimp, and we're going to squeeze it or slide it up to where we want it. Now, a lot of people think that your crimp needs to be as tight as you possibly can get it, right up to there like that, but that is incorrect. If you do that, what's going to happen is when you put it on and off, it's going to, when you take the bracelet on and off, the wire is going to rub on the clasp and on the crimp, and it's going to break. The nylon, you'll wear the nylon out, and it'll cut through the stainless steel. So we're going to just take this, and we're going to slide this up, and we are just going to squeeze straight down. And then, I don't know if you saw that, but I kind of opened the pliers a little bit, went up and back further into the tool. The further into the tool you go, the more pressure you get. So when you're squeezing that crimp, it's kind of best to be nice and tight up in there. So you can see that I have squished that crimp bead completely flat. And then I am pulling on that sucker and it is not going anywhere. So you're good to go. Now we are going to put on our crimp cover, but first we're going to cut off the extra tail here. Now there are two different schools of thought on this. Some people insist that they feed that back through their beads. But I have a question for you. Have you ever worn a necklace or a bracelet that itches you, like it scratches you and you can't stand to wear it? Most likely it is because the wire has gone through the bead and is poking out and is scratching you. So my theory is cut that off. If you've got this crimped properly, there is no need for this extra little tail. So we're going to take our flat nose pliers and we're going to again use the flush side. I'm going to feed that right up to that crimp. I'm going to hold the tail and I'm going to just snip it right off. And just like that, one end is done. Now these are crimp beads, not crimp tubes. Crimp tubes look like a cylinder, and I'm not a huge fan of them because they require extra steps, and if you don't get them crimped just right, they don't hold. So now we're going to put on our crimp cover. So crimp covers look like Pac-Man, and this is the only thing I use my Mighty Crimpers for, is to put the crimp covers on. So we're going to put it so Pac-Man's mouth is out in there, and I'm going to show you with my hands what we're going to do. We're going to take the crimp cover, we're going to slide the flattened crimp in, then we're going to turn the crimp 90 degrees, and then we're going to close the crimp cover. If you don't turn the crimp 90 degrees, what happens is when you close it, you're more likely to close it on the crimp than having the whole crimp inside. So if you turn it when you close it, you can't possibly not get it. So crimp cover in Mighty Crimper, and then we're going to go in, and then I'm going to turn that crimp like that, and then I'm going to gently, gently, gently squeeze, and it closes. But you'll notice that it's open still just a little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to put that opening up against the inside ridge of my Mighty Crimper, and I'm going to squeeze again just a little, and you can kind of like move it around in there, and when you squeeze it a few more times it closes right up. So there you go, there's one side completely done, and there's enough room for that the clasp to move in there, so it's good. All right, and then we slide the beads down to that end. Now, okay, I'm going to take the bead stopper off this side, and I'm going to put my crimp on this side. Then I'm going to put, actually before I put this wire through the other end of the toggle, I'm going to put the toggle together, meaning the bar goes through the toggle and it's together. So then what you do is you put, all right, we have our crimp on, we're going to take the wire through the other end of the clasp, and then we go back through the crimp. All right, I'm going to pull that a little bit, and then I'm going to set it down. Okay, this is the biggie for learning how to crimp. When you crimp your project, specifically the second end that we're about to do, you need to make sure that your toggle or your clasp, whatever clasp you're using, is attached to itself. This will, when you close it, allow for it to have enough slack for it to actually curve around your wrist. If you don't, if you crimp it in a straight line, like this, you are very, very likely to get the beads so tight, to crimp it too tight, and the beads will be so tight that when you go to wear it, they're going to buckle. See how they're tight and it's not quite round, it's buckling. But if you do it in the round, the beads will have enough slack to be in the round like that and lay comfortably. So there's my tip. Always keep the two ends together so that you have proper slack. Now, that also means you need to make sure that there's no extra wire showing in there, so that when you go and actually crimp this second end, there won't be a whole bunch of extra wire. Now, I'm going to crimp this side. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. Learning how to bead, the hardest part is figuring out how to hold things. So what I like to do is, I'm right-handed, so I want to hold the tool in this hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this clasp with my thumb and my ring finger, and then with my pointer and my middle finger, I'm going to grasp the tail, and I'm just going to kind of pull that a little bit. Now with my right hand, I'm going to take my tool, and we never hold our pliers like this, just in our fingertips. You want to hold it with your whole hand so that you get the whole power of your hand. Think about your physics class there. All right, so we're going to grab this crimp gently, and we're going to slide it up to where we want it. Now, sometimes with these two fingers, you can pull your wire so that it gets a little more taut, but this isn't quite doing it for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this wire and pull just a little. I just needed it to scooch up a little bit more. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to crimp it flat. I've got it where I want it. I'm going to crimp straight down. I don't know if you can see, but I am into the tool a little bit. And there is room between my crimp and the bead on the end that I'm crimping, which, now that I've squeezed it, I'll be able to show you. I want there to be just a little bit of space there because I'm going to put a crimp cover over that. That being said, I need room on either side of that crimp for the crimp cover. If I had crimped it so tight that the crimp was right up next to that bead, and then I went to put the crimp cover on, I'd have that whole same buckling issue that I was talking about before. So you want to, when you're crimping, make sure that you go deep enough into the plier that it allows room on the bead side of the crimp. All right, so now we're properly crimped. I'm going to take my wire cutter and I'm going to get ready. I'm going to hold this and snip that right off. And then I'm just going to put my final crimp cover on. Oops, wrong tool. All right, so again, Pac-Man's mouth is open to the end. I slide this on there and then I rotate the crimp. Hopefully you can see that 90 degrees in there. And then I'm just going to gently squeeze closed, rotate the crimp cover in the tool and squeeze again, rotate a couple more times, and just like that, we have a properly crimped project. All right, so there's one. Now I'm going to show you how to do a toggle. I'm sorry, we just did a toggle. I'm going to show you how to do a lobster claw with a piece of chain and a chain extender. So here's my lobster claw with my chain. Now, I want you to know that when I sell clasps here, I always sell the two pieces together. Some places don't, so just beware of what you're buying. So this is a little tiara cast lobster claw. So there's the open end. But I always attach a little chain end to it so that you have something for the other side. All right, there's that. So I have cut a 3-inch piece of just basic round chain and attached it there. So what I'm going to do is, okay, here's another little hint. When you're working, leave yourself, you don't have to leave like 6 inches, but leave yourself a couple inches of a tail of wire on the end. If you only leave yourself like half an inch, you're going to fail. It's too little. Even an inch sometimes is just not enough to work with. So 2 or 3 inches isn't too much of a waste of your wire. And it's enough to work with and be comfortable. So, all right, so we're going to crimp this the same way we did. We take our little gold crimp. We're going to go from the small side to the large side. Then we're going to go through one end of our clasp. We're going to fold this over and go back through our crimp. All right, so I'm going to take my flat nose plier and I'm going to gently grab the crimp. I'm going to slide it up to where I want it and squeeze straight down. Now, again, I'm going to take this, I'm going to slide a little further in and give it one more squeeze. And then to test it, you can always yank on both pieces. And I mean, if it doesn't slip, you're good. Here is a little quick tip about crimps. If when you're crimping them, you feel them slip or you hear them click, take it off, throw it out, start over. So the clicking noise, if it doesn't quite go down properly, sometimes you'll hear this weird click, and when you hear it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the crimp is compromised, so take it off, throw it out, start with a fresh one. And then the slipping, you'll actually feel. So instead of the crimp going straight down, it will kind of do this off to the side. And if it does that, the grip isn't quite good, so take it off, throw it out, start over. Okay, so again, what are we going to do with this tail? We're going to snip. So I'm going to take the flush side of my cutters. I'm going to hold the tail. Make sure you're cutting the tail, not your working thread, because that's awful. And we're just going to snip it right off, nice and close. Then we're going to take our gold crimp cover, goes into the Mighty Crimper. Then we grab this, we're going to put it in and turn it 90 degrees and gently squeeze. Okay. If ever a crimp cover goes awry and it's not sitting properly, they do take quite a bit of practice before you master them. What you can do is take a pair of your cutters and grab the crimp this way and squeeze, and it probably won't cut right through the crimp cover, but it will like squeeze it open and you can get it off and start over. All right, so we are going to slide those beads down, and then we're gonna do the other side. So we put on a crimp, and then now for this end, normally on this kind of a closure, we would now go through this end of the little tag here, but on this, we want to crimp this as tight as possible so that we have enough slack if you're going to wear it nice and close up to your skin or up to your neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to crimp into this link that the chain or that the clasp is actually attached to. I'm hoping you guys can see that. So what we do is we go through that piece of chain that's attached to the clasp, and then we go back through the crimp. And this way, when you pull it tight, it is in the round and it is allowing enough slack for that. So then again, I'm going to hold in my thumb and my ring finger. I have the clasp, and then I have that extra wire here in my pointer and middle finger here, so I can kind of adjust that. I'm going to take my flat nose pliers. I'm going to gently grab that crimp, and I'm going to make sure that I have enough room on both sides of the crimp for the crimp cover. And I'm going to just squeeze straight down once I'm happy with where it is. So I squeeze straight down. I can go in a little bit more and squeeze again. Give it a little tug. It's good to go. And then snip with that. There we go. Whoops. There we go. Easy. We're just going to cover up that last crimp with a crimp cover. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. I didn't tell you what beads I used in this necklace. So I used a little 2x3 Chinese crystal rondelle in a beautiful turquoise color. And then I have these beautiful gold-plated little drops that I use that I am like obsessed with. So crimp cover goes on. Again, in, rotate 90 degrees, gently squeeze. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I don't know if you've done any extender chains before, but I like to put on the end of mine a little bead or something to just, when I'm wearing it, it helps it hold it down. So I have pulled a little spacer and a little head pin. Whoops, hello. Okay, so I have a little, just a cute little spacer, and I'm gonna put it on a head pin. Just like that. And then I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of another tool I'm going to do a tutorial on. This is called the one-step looper, and prepare to be amazed because it's a fantastic tool. So this tool will make a loop right here. Instead of having to do it by hand with a pair of wire cutters, flat nose pliers, and a round nose plier, it's going to do it all in one motion. So what I do is I put it in, and then I squeeze, and you can rock it back a little bit, and just like that, a perfect loop every time, and they will all be exactly the same size, which is really cool. So I'm going to use my flat nose pliers. I'm going to open that loop up a bit. I'm going to slip it onto the last link of chain, and then I'm going to use my flat nose pliers to close it right back up, just like that. And my necklace is ready to go. All right. So I think that covers everything. I know I talked a lot, but I hope there's some good information in there. The keys are, you want to make sure that you leave enough slack in the necklace, so always crimp with the two ends of your clasp attached to each other. And then make sure that your crimps are actually closed. So you want to use a good pair of flat nose pliers, give them a good squish. Again, if you hear them click or you feel it slip, take it off, throw that crimp out, start new. And yeah, crimp covers aren't necessary, by the way. If you don't want to struggle with them or you just don't like them, you don't have to use them. I only started using them a couple years ago, and I think they make your stuff look a little more finished, but I have plenty of jewelry at home that does not have them on it. So again, to show you our finished pieces, we have a cute little bracelet all fixed up and ready to go, and then we have a beautiful necklace. Ta-da. Complete with a chain extender so we can wear it at whatever length you want, just like that. All right, so I'm going to, in my description, I'm going to post links to everything you need to make these items. And then if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Visit us on Facebook. We're on Instagram at abeadjustsew. And then my website is abeadjustsew.com. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. And happy beading, of course.